Huh? You see? And so you're tagged in. Hare Krishna. Everything is clear? Okay, so we start. Okay, all right, fine. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Yeah. Hare Krishna. So for half an hour we will speak. After half an hour some questions will be there and answered. So we'll start with chanting the Mangalacharan. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjanasalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yanam Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sabadantigam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yatapatagamanan Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishaganvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpade Gopesha Govigaganta Radha Kanta Namastude Tapta Ganjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshari Vrijabhanu Sode Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Paditanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Nama Eva Kevalam Kalau Nastyeva Gatiranyata. Hare Krishna. So today we are going to speak a few words about deity worship at home. Deity worship at home is usually simplified, whereas deity worship in the temple is elaborate. So for all the devotees, it is good to know the proper worship of deity worship, even as it is done in the temple. One should have the proper understanding of deity worship, and then we may do it simply, in a simple way, at home. It is mentioned by Srila Rupa Goswami Pad in the Nectar of Devotion. There are 64 limbs of devotional service, angas, chosat ang. The first is Gurupad Ashray, taking shelter of the spiritual master. Without taking shelter of the spiritual master, it is not possible to make advancement in spiritual life. And there may be different spiritual masters, the initiating spiritual master, Diksha Guru, the instructing spiritual master, Shiksha Guru, Vatma Pradarshak Guru, the one who is showing the path, Bhajan Guru one is showing how to do bhajan and so on. And usually the initiating spiritual master is also giving instructions, of course. So the spiritual master will guide the disciple in order that he will make advancement in spiritual life. And as explained by Rupa Goswami then, in his 64 limbs, he's explaining what to do and what not to do, Vidhi and Nisheth, the rules and regulations. And further is explaining about Navavidha Bhakti, the 9 limbs of devotional service. Shavanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Parasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma, Nivedanam. So we have to hear about the process of devotional service. We have to hear about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his pastimes. We have to hear about Krishna and his pastimes. And then we may repeat that to others, what we have heard. And it will be more solidly established in the consciousness in the heart. Then actually comes Vishnu Smaranam, Krishna Smaranam. After that we may serve the lotus feet of the Lord, and then we can properly worship the deities. And a purport to this verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam spoken by Prahlad Maharaj to his father, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada is nicely explaining the 9 limbs. And in deity worship, in Archanam, is explaining that deity worship starts when the devotee is absorbed in hearing and chanting about Krishna. And then further on, then we can glorify Krishna, Vandanam, Dasyam, always in the mood that I am the eternal servant of Krishna. And that is known as Vidhi Marg up to Dasyam. Further on comes Sakyam and Atma Nivedanam, having the intimate relationship with Krishna, especially in Braj Bhav. And then we can fully surrender to Krishna. That is known as Rag Marg, the spontaneous platform, which ultimately we have to achieve in order to enter the pastimes of Krishna. To be firmly established in the proper consciousness, in the proper understanding, that is important so that we can properly worship the deities and get the full benefit of worshipping the deities and advance nicely in our spiritual life. So back to the point of 64 limbs of devotional service by Rupa Goswami Pad. Then he's explaining at the end about Pancha Mahatapurna Ang, 5 most important limbs of devotional service, which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself explained to his devotees, which is recorded also in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Sadhu Sangha, again there one has to have the association of the sadhus, the saintly people, the saintly devotees, the spiritual master of the Vaishnavas who are advanced. Then one can properly chant the holy names, then one can properly worship the deities, one can properly reside in the holy dham. So Sadhu Sangha, so that is most important. And then Bhagavad Shravan, again we have to hear, therefore Prabhupada every day he wanted the devotees to hear Bhagavatam in the morning, Bhagavad Gita in the evening, and then Chaitanya Charitamrita. After that, so we have Dhamvas residing in the holy Dham, which is important. So, and it is mentioned that one should reside in the holy Dham, Braj Dham, or Navadip Dham. But if not physically, then mentally. Because not everyone can come and stay in the holy Dham. But then mentally we should be connected to the Dham. Therefore, even when we worship the deities, before worshipping the deities, we remember the holy Dham. Or we do at least Jaika, Jai Sri Vrindavan Dham, Jai Navadip Dham. And then the fourth limb is then the actual deity worship, Priti Purvak Murti Seva, Vigraha Seva, which we will explain further in a few minutes. And the most important limb, Panchanga Puja, or in the Panchamahattvapurna Ang, so the 5 limbs are there. Most important ultimately is chanting the holy names, the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. If one is properly chanting the holy names, then everything is included in that. Of course, so these limbs of devotional service, they are interrelated, interconnected. That we have to understand. And back to the point of 64 limbs, so we can see in the 5 most important deity worship is there in Navavida Bhakti, and the 9 limbs, deity worship is there, Archanam. And in the 64 limbs, if we analyze them, we can see that more than half, almost 40 of the limbs of devotional service, they are actually pertaining to deity worship. So from that we can understand the importance of deity worship. Again, it is explained there are 2 marg, 2 paths. Vidhi marg, of course, and rag marg. Pancharatrika vidhi or Bhagavad vidhi. Following the process of following the rules and regulations, especially according to Pancharatra, the texts which are also explaining about deity worship. And then we have the spontaneous platform of the platform of simply hearing and chanting the holy names, known as Bhagavad Marg. But it is recommended for all the devotees to perform both, to engage in the process of hearing and chanting under the guidance of the spiritual master and worshipping the deities. So the devotee who is worshipping the deities, he must chant nicely his rounds, he must hear or read every day the scriptures. He must be under the guidance of the spiritual master or the advanced devotee. And in this way, so he will be able to nicely engage in deity worship. So that is the introduction, and that is important to understand. Worshipping the deities is not just taking the incense and doing a few circles and ringing the bell. That is not deity worship. Not just going to see the deities, having deities at home and then just going and bathing them and changing the dress. No, there's a whole process which we should know, and then we can do in a simpler way also. And we have to understand which service is most important in deity worship. So many points are there, which we will try to cover, let's see, in a few classes. And so today we just give the introduction about deity worship. So in English we simply say deity worship. In Sanskrit there are many names for deity worship. Sanskrit is the richest language, it is most wonderful language. So for deity worship there are many names. As for example, Murti Seva or Archa Vigraha Seva. Also it is known as Pancharatrika Vidhi, Aradhanam, Archanam, Paricharya, Charya, and also Panchanga Puja or simply Puja. So these are different names for deity worship. So we will now concentrate on one of these aspects of deity worship known as Panchanga Puja, one of the names of deity worship. Panchanga Puja. Puja means the worship of the Lord, by which Purna Jagarati, full awareness can be there of the Lord. Puja, Purna, Jagarti. Pancha, Anga means 5 limbs of that process of deity worship. First is known as Abhigaman, that is preparing. Abhigaman, now going to temple, or now going to worship the Lord. There's a preparation required so that we can worship the Lord. A second is known as Upadan. Upadan means to collect the items which you need in the worship. Third is known as Yoga. Yoga means to link with the Lord. In deity worship, to come to the transcendental platform so we can worship Krishna, who is completely transcendental. Satchidananda Vastu, Satchidananda Vigraha Krishna. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Supreme Controller. Is Pranana, the Lord of the life of the devotees, but is transcendently situated. And his eternal Swarup, eternal form, full of knowledge and full of bliss, known as Shyama Sundar, Yashodanandan, appearing or eternally being the son of Maria Yashoda and Krishna, but being the source of everything. Purna Purushottam Bhagavan, Swayam Bhagavan, Aradhya Dev, is the source of everything. So to worship him, to approach him, one has to be on the transcendental platform ultimately, beyond the material body and both gross and subtle, the gross and subtle body, beyond on the transcendental plane. After that comes the actual worship of the Lord, another name for deity worship known as Ijja. Ijja, that is the actual service, the actual worship of the Lord according to the injunctions of the scriptures and the spiritual master. And the fifth is known as Swadhyay, Adhyayan, Swa, self-study, as explained just before. So in order to properly worship the deities, so that has to be done. That one is doing Swadhyay, studying the scriptures, but Swadhyay is not only studying the scriptures, but being properly situated according to Vana Ashram, following Sadacha, proper conduct according to the Vana and Ashram, and properly chanting the holy names, and dealing properly with the Vaishnavas, serving those who are more advanced, having a loving relationship with the others on the same platform, and being merciful to the neophyte devotees or the beginners or those who are not inclined to devotional service as yet, and trying to help them. So that is the duty of all the Vaishnavas. So going back to the first point, Panchanga Puja, Abhigaman, approaching the temple of the deities. Before doing any seva, we have to be properly purified in existence, means internally and externally. In the early morning, so it starts by getting up, hearing the alarm clock and getting up. But just before getting up, actually, it is important to immediately offer obeisances to Guru, Gauranga and Krishna. In home, we may do that in a simple way by doing Jai Ka, Jai Gurudev, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Gonitai, or Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhadra, as the deities are named. And then after, of course, then washing the teeth, brushing the teeth. Of course, we may drink water also first, and then brushing the teeth, going to the bathroom, and then taking bath. So at that point, so we should understand the mind has to be fixed on Krishna. After always offering obeisances to Guru, Gauranga, Krishna, the mind has to be fixed on Krishna, trying to remember him or trying to chant the holy names. The Brahmanas who are well versed, who are worshipping the temple, they may say so many mantras right after getting up. offering obeisances to Mother Earth, to the worshipable Lord, chanting various prayers in glorification of the Lord. And in simple worship, as explained, we keep it simple, but we should know the principle that we offer respect to Guru Garanga Krishna, and we try to remember Krishna or Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the spiritual master, as much as possible. Even while taking bath, so the Brahmanas usually they will chant one mantra, Om Apavitra Pavitra Va Sarvavastam Garopiva Yasmaret Pundare Kaksham Saba Abhyantara Suchihi. So by remembering Pundarikaksha, Krishna who has beautiful eyes like lotus petals, then one becomes cleansed internally and externally. So again, at the point that we have to approach Krishna who is supremely pure, Amal Purush. We have to be also pure, then only we can approach him properly, we can serve him. So for that, after getting up, we have to take a bath, put on fresh clothes, put tilak on the body, and remember him, chant his holy names. So that is the first step, Abhigaman, approaching the Lord, at home or in the temple. Second, Upadan. So in order to worship the Lord, we need different paraphernalia. For example, we do Mangalatik at home or in the temple. So we need the ghee lamp, water in the conch, handkerchief, flowers, incense, chamar, peacock fan, and so on, a bell. So that has to be made ready, and then we may approach the Lord. So at home it may be done in a simple way. And there again, the most important is always we should understand the bhav. Krishna is known as Bhava Grahi Janardhan. He's there to accept the bhav, the mood of the devotee. That is important. And is explained so that following the instructions of the spiritual master and in our sampradaya, so worshipping Mahaprabhu and worshipping Krishna, basically. Of course, Jaga might be there also, or Ramchandra Bhagavan, Nishingadev. And then by hearing about the Lord, then we have the proper mood. And we offer bhoga to the deities also. So we have to have the bhoga ready. And then we may be bathing the deities in the temple every day and putting on the dress every day, changing the dress every day. At home, for householders, sometimes it may not be possible to do that, so they may do once a week. That's we will explain a little further, maybe the next class, the practical aspect of the deity worship. For now, we continue with the process, or with the Panchanga Puja, which is important. So we have all the paraphernalia, and the paraphernalia should be clean. As the body, the consciousness has to be clean, so the paraphernalia has to be clean also. Sat Shuddhi, it is explained also, with 6 points of purity. One is the consciousness, the body, of course the soul then, by pure consciousness. And then the place of worship has to be clean. Dravya, the paraphernalia has to be clean. And then the chanting of the mantras, that has to be also proper. Mantra Shuddhi. And then even the deities, so they have to be then cleansed regularly. So that is also explained. Murti Shuddhi. So the Murti, because Krishna is transcendental, of course, and his Amal Purush always pure and beyond the modes of material nature. But in this world, when we have the deities or even the pictures, the material elements are there, and the environment is there. And for example, especially in Braj, there's a lot of Braj, dust of Braj, which is then coming on the deities, coming even on the pictures, so therefore we have to clean the deities every day, preferably, if not every day, then once a week, otherwise there's dust on the deities. And then that is not so nice. Krishna will not like it. So purity is very important, and Prabhupada has explained in deity worship, two things are very important. One is cleanliness, and one is punctuality. And as the saying goes in English language, that cleanliness is next to godliness. Cleanliness is next to godliness. So Prabhupada is established. And also having seen that in the West, the environment is quite clean. People are trying to be clean as much as they can understand what is cleanliness. But only clean are actually, and the Vaishnavas who have the proper understanding of cleanliness. But externally speaking, in the West, they are quite clean. If you go to Switzerland, somehow I took birth there. Must be purpose also, Krishna put me there to understand these 2 points, cleanliness and punctuality, because in Switzerland, they're extremely clean. One of the cleanest countries in the world. I can say that, not because I was born there, but because of practical experience. And they are very punctual, extremely punctual in Switzerland. So that is important in deity worship also. Prabhupada wanted to establish that in order to be able to be successful in the Western world, where everyone is, especially in Switzerland, is very clean and punctual. But even in England, Europe, America, they are trying to be clean and punctual as much as they can. So that is important. So that is the aspect of upadan, also cleanliness, and then doing the seva punctually. Of course, in Braj, it is a little different. They have spontaneous love, and they take it sometimes a little bit easy. Sometimes Artik is later, not in our temple, in other temples, and we should not think we are better because of that. But they are on the platform of spontaneous love. And even if we see the pastimes of Krishna, Krishna is almost always late. So then the Brijabasis, Krishna's devotees, also always almost late. And no big deal for them. But we are trying to be followers of course, Rupa Goswami ultimately, but then we take shelter of Srimati Radharani. And Srimati Radharani, she is always on time for the abhisar, for the rendezvous. But Krishna is mostly late, so we follow Srimati Radharani, we try to be punctual and very clean. Of course, Krishna is also meticulous dresser and he's clean, but he's a little late most of the time. And the next known as yoga. So yoga, as explained, so the third, then it means to come to the transcendental plane, and then we can worship Krishna, to link with God, bhakti yoga, karma yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga. So we're performing bhakti yoga. With bhakti, we try to approach the Supreme Lord. In deity worship, so that is a process by which we come to the transcendental plane. And so we may remain on that platform also during the worship. Theoretically, we have understood that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. We are not this body, we are spirit soul. And we have an eternal relationship with Him. We are in this material world and we have to go to the spiritual world. That is also known as Sambandha Gyan. So we know theoretically, but practically to be situated on a transcendental platform is not so easy. Therefore, when we are approaching the deities, you must perform this purificatory rite of, known also as Purvanga Karma, preliminary activities before worshipping the Lord, known as yoga also. So it means to come to the transcendental plane platform of the soul. And that is done by doing Achman for purification. And there are two Achman. One is simple Achman, one is Sadharan Achman. Sipping water 3 times, Om Keshavaya Namaha, Om Narayanaya Namaha, Om Madhavaya Namaha, which should be also done properly, that we will explain. And there's Vishesh Achman, more elaborate for those who are doing seva in the temple. And then we have to chant some mantras, again for purification, in order to connect to the Lord. Om Tad Vishnu Paramambaram Sadha Pashnati Suryaho Diva Chaksoraram Tat Tripa Jivinjavo Jagri Avam Sa Samindare Vishnu Riyat Paramam Padam. This is a verse from the Rig Veda, which is well known. Prabhupada many times he recites that verse. He recited that, we can hear in the lectures. So, explaining about the Vipra, the Brahmanas, those who are worshipping the deities. So they have transcendental vision. Jagri Vamsa, they are transcendently awake, spiritually awake. Diviva Chakshoradadam, so with divine vision, divine eyes, they can see the transcendental realm. They can see Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Param Sada. Always they can see the transcendental realm. Just like during the day we can see the sun, we can see the things around us, whereas nighttime, if there's no full moon, if there's no electricity, we cannot see anything. So but as soon as the sun is rising, even before we see the sun, even there's already some light due to the influence of the sun. But when the sun is visible, then everything is very clear. So similarly, by worshipping Krishna, Krishna Surya Samamaya Hai Andakar, Jahan Krishna Thar Maya Adhikar Nai. Krishna is like the sun, and Maya, illusion, is darkness. Wherever there is Krishna, there is no room for darkness. So by doing this process of purification, of chanting these mantras, and then we are connected to Krishna, and then we can properly worship Krishna. There's one pranam mantra also, which we can chant at home, even while after getting up or before doing the puja, to be connected on the transcendental plane, so we are able to remember Guru Gauranga, Krishna and all their associates. Gurave Gauri Chandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. Offering obeisances to the spiritual master, to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his associates, Srimati Radharani and her gopis, and the holy abode of Sri Vrindavan Dham, offering obeisances to Krishna, Krishna's devotees, and the devotees of Krishna's devotees. So there is a Bhuta Shuddhi also. For those who are doing seva in the temple, they have to recite that before doing the seva. And by nature it turns somewhat of Krishna, but by misfortune, due to my being inimical towards him since time immemorial, I have been identifying with his material body and have been wandering in the cycle of birth and death, being burnt by the threefold miseries. Now, as a result of some unimaginable good fortune, by the mercy of my spiritual master, I know that I am an infinitesimal spiritual being, completely apart from the gross and subtle body. Now, by the order of my spiritual master, by his mercy, I am able to serve his lotus feet as well as the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada, the previous Acharya, Sri Sri Gaunitai, Sri Krishna Balaram, Sri Radha Shama Sundar, Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi. So that is usually also said in one's language, so that one is properly situated. And but if one is not able to learn the whole mantra and simple worship at home, at least we should do Achman and then be aware, I am not this body, I am spirit soul, and I am going to serve Krishna. And then one other verse may be recited, Naham viprona chan narapatiyana pevaishna shuddha naham varinachaga kintu pradyan nikla pramananda punamaripita der gopivattu barugama das das anadasaha. As Mahaprabhu used to recite this verse, I am not a kshatriya, brahmana, vaishya, shudra, noremaya, brahmachari, grihasta, or vanaprasti, or sannyasi, but I am simply the servant of Krishna, the beloved of the gopis. So das das anudas. We should be in that mood always, humble mood. I'm the servant of Krishna. I'm the servant of my spiritual master. I'm the servant of the Vaishnavas. So that is yoga. So for purification, we do this so we may properly worship the Lord. And then the fourth, so that is the actual worship that we will explain in the next class. The different services which are there and how it should be performed in the temple or at home. So we will concentrate on home worship in a simple way, but still we should know what is the proper method of worship which is done in the temple. So that we will explain in the next class. And Swadhyay, so that we have briefly explained that we have to have a good sadhana, and we have to nicely chant the holy names and hear about Mahaprabhu or Krishna and proper dealings with the devotees, so that we may be able to properly worship the deities. So that is important. So we will stop here. There's a sign here to stop by the Lord's arrangement. And so if there are any questions, you may ask. We'll give 5 minutes. There was no question. One question was there. Any question? Hare Krishna. So deity worship is very important for the devotees, for the householders, for the brahmacharis. Even the sannyasi, this is mentioned. They may engage in deity worship. So this recommended actually for all the devotees. Unless one is highly advanced, one should worship the deities in the temple or at home. It is important.
Just one question.
And the brahmanas, they are worshipping the deities. The kshatriyas, they should also. The vaishyas also. Everyone should worship the deities. Unless one is highly advanced, then one may simply chant the holy names. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, Samman Leena Bhajas. Are there any prayers we should pray before stitching clothes for deities?
Before stitching cloth for the deities, any prayers? Well, that prayer which I just mentioned just a few minutes ago, Gurave Gauru Chandraya, Radhikaya Tadalaya, Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadabhaktaya Namo Namaha. That prayer you may learn, and you may chant in the morning before just after getting up, or before getting up when you wake up, before the puja, before going to the kitchen to cook for the deities, before stitching, before doing anything, you can chant this mantra. Because we have to understand we need the mercy of the spiritual master, Gurave. And then we need the blessing of the Lord Himself, so we can do anything properly. So we can do it properly. So we can chant this mantra that is very useful, very helpful, very special mantra. And everyone is included in this small mantra. And so that is also Mangalacharan verse. Sometimes we have to speak and we may simply say this mantra to be fixed and to draw the blessings of Guru Gauranga and Sisi Radha Krishna. So that mantra you may say before stitching the deity's cloth.
Next question. Someone Rani Patel Dashmukh, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. How do we do worship if we are having cold or cough and are the only one who can perform worship?
How to do worship? We have a cold and cough, and we are the only person doing the worship. Somehow or the other, you have to do the worship. When you have your personal deities, even if nobody is there, And those who have the determination that I will do the worship, they take this sankalpa, I will do the vow, or the determination is there that every day I will worship my deities. Then no matter what, they will do the worship, even if they're cold. Still they will try to take a bath, because at some point, even if you have a cold, maybe you take extra rest, but you have to get up and you have to go to the bathroom, and then you have to take bath. Then of course it is warm water, and you may be coughing, sneezing, but then you just do the worship simple, and you tell Krishna, my dear Lord or Mahaprabhu, I'm in such a position, it's difficult to do it properly, but I will just try my best. And then you do in a simple way the worship, but the worship has to go on. But you do it simple if you're not able to, if your health is not good. Just like, for example, if one is a mother. So if the mother is sick and has a cold, she cannot just think, okay, now I'm sick, I have to take rest. I cannot take care of my child because I'm sick. No, the child will be crying, wanting something to eat. Even though the mother is sick, she will have to feed the child something. So Krishna has to be taken care of, although he doesn't need anyone. He's Atmaram Aptakam, self-sufficient, Swarat, fully independent. But at the same time, so he's giving us the opportunity to understand that we need him all the time, and our connection is with him, and we have to serve him ultimately, constantly. So for that, we have to do the seva every day. Whatever is the condition, even you're very sick, but you have to try to do the seva. But if sometimes, let's say somebody has diarrhea and has to go to the bathroom every half an hour, he may not be able to. Sometimes some rare situations, it may be difficult, then he may do Manasa Puja. So in the mind, he may just do some worship. But still, even there, I mean, myself, I have deities, and I have worshipped my deities since practically 40 years, and without fail, whatever is the situation. Unless one is on the plane, of course now lockdown is there, no flying around and no going with a train or car. But sometimes you were in the plane or train also, then we cannot talk to the deities, but the deities are with us, then we do Manasa Puja. But if we are at home, then no matter what is our physical condition, then we should try to do it.
Next question. Could you please also speak if there are any specific don'ts in deity worship?
Specific don'ts. Do not. Yes, there are do's and don'ts. Things to do and things not to do. We will explain what to do, and we will explain what not to do. It is mentioned that there are 64 kinds of offenses in deity worship, and they are divided in 4. So these are known as seva parad. So these are don'ts, don't do these things. So first is offenses due to impurity of the body, mind, and the words. So for example, you have to worship the deities, especially in the morning. When we the most important worship is in the morning, the puja, and that we will explain. For that we have to be clean, and if you don't do that, it is an aparad, an offense. So don't do the worship when you're not clean in the morning. During the day, at home it is something else. You may do achman, and then you may offer something, but when you're touching the deities, you must be pure, internally and externally. And for example, then also you don't speak harsh in front of the deities. Don't chastise anybody in front of the deities. Of course, if the children are there, if they're naughty, you have to try to control them in front of the deities. So different don'ts are there. And mentally also, we have to control the mind. Therefore, we have to have a good sadhana. And we have to do the process of purification before worshipping the deities, so that the mind and the senses are controlled. And so we should not think something bad while we are worshipping the deities. And for example, another is also lack of respect. That is the second category of offenses in front of the deities. For example, If you have eaten something, or you have eaten too much, maybe even the night before, then your stomach is full, and then you have to belch or you have to pass gas. From up and down, passing air in front of the deities, that is an offense. Especially when you're doing the seva. Of course, if you're at home, the deities are there and you're chanting japa, and sometimes some pru is coming, nothing you can do. But when you're worshipping the deities, at that time you have to be controlled and you have to hold it at that time. Otherwise you will be in an offense. So don't belch or don't pass bad gas from down in front of the deities. And third kind, so we have to respect the Lord always. So if you don't do that, it is a kind of lack of respect. That is a second category. So the 64 are divided in 4. And so I will just giving a few. And the third is lack of endeavor. So for example, every day you have to do an offering in the morning, and you have to have nice flowers, you have to have nice foodstuffs. And for example, then when we have a festival, you should have a little more opulent, like you have deity of Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. On their appearance day, you have to have some more elaborate service, otherwise it is offense. So in this way there are some, and the fourth kinds of offense is lack of faith that the Supreme Lord is there. So sometimes it may happen, and some unified devotees they will think, is that really God? This Murti, is that really God? So that has to be, we have to be properly situated and control the mind, the senses, be established in Sambandha Gyan, knowing our relationship, and in Abhideya Gyan, in knowing how to worship the Lord, how to perform devotional service. So otherwise then the offenses may be there. So in this way so the rules are there what to do and also what not to do. For example, also it is mentioned that the worship has to be done in the morning, and you should not eat anything before you have offered anything to Krishna. That is also, don't do that. Don't eat anything before we have worshipped Krishna. That should not be done. So don'ts are there. Any other question? Yes.
How do we know which form of deity one should worship? Should it depend on one's liking or something else? And I heard Radha Krishna worship is very strict.
Yes, so how do we know what deity we should worship? According to one's liking, or we have heard so that worship of Radha Krishna is more strict, one has to be qualified. So usually one will take the permission of the spiritual master. If one is not yet initiated, then one will take shelter of a devotee who is more advanced, and then he will take guidance from the advanced devotee, and then we may ask him, if it is not clear in our consciousness whom we should worship, then we may ask the senior devotee. So shall I worship Gonitai? Shall I worship Jagannath Baladev Subhadra? Or shall I worship Radha and Krishna? So the devotee who is experienced, he will give the proper answer to that. He will guide you whom you should worship. But basically in the beginning, for the devotees who are beginning Krishna consciousness, so they may worship Sisi Gonitai, because Mahaprabhu is most merciful, is the Kali Yuga avatar, is the incarnation of the age of this age. He has established the religion of this age, the chanting of the holy names. So worshipping Gonitai in the beginning is very, very helpful. And even those who are worshipping Radha Krishna, but before worshipping Radha Krishna, you have to worship Sri Guru, the spiritual master, and then you have to worship Gauranga, and then only you can worship Radha and Krishna. That is the process that we'll explain further in the next class.
What are this is Adigadada Das. What are the qualifications for Radha Krishna worship?
What are the qualifications for Radha Krishna worship? For Radha Krishna worship, for Radha Krishna worship, one has to be strict in his execution of devotional service. One has to be steady, and one has to be under the guidance of the spiritual master, an advanced devotee, so that one may be able to properly worship Radha and Krishna. Some maturity has to be there, and ultimately Braj Bhav has to be there, following ultimately the footsteps of the Brijabasis, the gopis or Nanda Baba, Yashoda, the friends of Krishna, but especially for Radha Krishna, so that is taking shelter of the gopis. Then we can properly worship Radha and Krishna.
Hare Krishna Guruji. How shall we handle or deal if the deity is broken and it is in unworshipable condition?
If the deities are broken and they are broken in such a way that they cannot be repaired, then they have to be put in a holy river that is known as Visarjan, or in the ocean, or they may be buried somewhere. And so that is usually the system. But if they are only slightly broken, if let's say you have some Neem deity and a little finger just has broken, you can try to fix, and then you worship. Of course, there's a mentioning in the scriptures, the deities who are kandit, the deities who are broken, they should not be worshipped. That is in the temple, and that is if the, and really those who are strictly following this path of devotional service in the temple in elaborate worship. Of course, even there may be some discrimination may be there, and that the spiritual master will decide. If only something small is there, then it may be repaired. If it is not to be repaired, if it cannot be repaired, obviously, then we have to discard the deities, and then, but also then with respect, we have to do Visarjan of the deities who are broken. We have to give, however they may be broken. So then one has to beg forgiveness from the Lord if this had happened, whatever the reason may be, as we have seen even in the West. And one place, one time, some thieves came and they broke the deities. It was not the devotees' fault, obviously. Of course, maybe they were not properly worshipping also. They may be there, but externally, so some thieves came and they broke the deities. And then what they can do, they have to beg forgiveness from the Lord. And if they cannot be fixed, then have to be disposed. And then new deities may be brought and installed.
Person is asking for your personal email ID so that they can ask questions.
My personal email ID? Yes, okay, Mukunda Datta, MUKUNDA DATTA @rediffmail.com. REDIFFMAIL.com, rediffmail.com. So you may ask me by email also some question.
Okay, Hare Krishna. A devotee friend gave me Laddu Gopal deity. Should he be named before we serve him or just continue worship?
So somebody gave a Laddu Gopal deity, and so he should be named before worshipping? Or
should just continue worshipping? So perhaps maybe he was already being worshipped?
Well, Laddu Gopal is Laddu Gopal. The name is already there. But so if he has already been worshipped, then you can ask the person who worshipped if he gave a special name. But basically, Laddu Gopal is Laddu Gopal. But you may give him another name also as you like. Kanaya, Kana, whatever you like. So, and just like in Braj, in Madhya Yashoda, she's calling Krishna And Krishna, so she herself is calling Krishna or Kanna and different names. And of course then the gopis, they have their names also. Shyamsundar is the favorite name of for Krishna. Of the gopis, they like the name Shyamsundar the most, so they will call him Shyam or Shyamsundar. But any name is all right as you like. Krishna has unlimited, almost unlimited names according to his qualities and his pastimes and his devotees. So you can Yashodananda, Nandanandan, you can call him as you like, no problem, different names.
Okay, next question. I have silver deities and they get tarnished very soon. So how to clean them? Any remedy, as we can't use chemicals on deities?
Well, you can try some natural agent to clean the deity, so that you have to see. For silver usually, well, yeah, in India usually they will use Colgate powder. So you have to see, you have to find something which is able to clean the deity, which is not too much full with chemicals.
Okay, next question. How do we atone for offenses and past slacken in deity worship due to lack of discipline? Also, if one has many deities, should one be more focused on one specific deity, as worshiping everyone may become time consuming and sometimes even burdensome due to the fallen conditioned state?
So what to do if one has committed some offense, aparad, if one has been neglectful, or what to do if one has so many deities, how to be focused and see that one can worship them nicely, but at the same time not spend too much time.
Yeah, if you can have one specific deity.
One specific, yes. First of all, yes, if one has done something wrong, and then, yeah, one has to actually, in deity worship, it is mentioned after every seva, you have to chant aparada kshama mantra. Chant the mantras for obtaining forgiveness for offenses performed. Mantrahinam, kriyahinam, bhaktihinam janadana, yat pujidam maireva paripurnam tadastume. Oh my Lord, please kindly accept whatever I have done. The little seva I have performed. Even if it is not done properly, even if mantras are not chanted properly, but kindly, please, mercifully accept that. And aparada sahasrani kriyantahane samaya dasamamitamam matvaksama surusurnaha. O Madhusudan, kshamasva, please kindly forgive me for my offenses which I have committed. Aparada sahasrani. Thousands of offenses are committed by me day and night. And in the conditioned state, actually, the devotee who is practicing is committing so many offenses unknowingly on a daily basis, and even nighttime, bad dreams or whatever. So if one is taking rest late, and may do nighttime also offense. So it is almost unavoidable. So therefore, after every seva, after every service to the deities, you have to beg from the Lord for forgiveness for any offenses committed by body, mind and words. Even nighttime it is mentioned that is for every devotee. Before taking rest, one has to beg forgiveness from the Lord and for any offenses committed towards him, towards the deity, towards the holy names, towards the dham, towards the Vaishnavas, towards even any jiva, any embodied soul. Because sometimes we're walking every day, and sometimes stepping on ants, killing the ants or flies or mosquitoes, or sometimes unavoidable, and it's happening every day. So we have to beg forgiveness from the Lord every day. Only the pure devotees who are on the platform on the transcendental plane, they are not committing any offenses. But even they will say these mantras in order to set the example, in order to teach others. As sadhakas, because even the advanced devotees, they will feel, I'm just a practicing devotee, I don't have love for Krishna. So they will when they're on that state, they will always even beg forgiveness from the Lord, although there's no chance of them doing any aparad. So after every seva we have to do that. And so in this way, if one has been negligent, then one has to and then rectify that and do the seva nicely and beg forgiveness, as I mentioned, every day. And regards if one has many deities, so usually one has to focus on first Guru Puja and then Gauranga Puja and then Krishna Puja. And if you have, for example, many Shilas, there should be one Pradhan Shila, one main Shila, which we have to worship. You offer everything to one main Shila. And then, so you may not be able to, if somebody has 100 Shilas, he may not bathe them every day, but he may bathe the main Shila every day. If one has many deities, so one has to be also practical and see how he can manage, and depend what kind of deities he has. But basically, Guru, Gauranga, Krishna have to be worshipped. And then one has to choose which deities to have as the main deities. So, and then you do the worship more to them. But if you have many deities, well, you took the responsibility, then you have to somehow take care. And you have to divide. If you have so many deities, one day you worship one deity. For example, you may not be able, if you have Gonita, Krishna Balaram, Radha Krishna, Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, Nishingadev, and then you may not be able to do the seva to all the deities every day and change Goni, bathe Gonitai, and then bathe Jagannath, Baladev, or change the dress of Krishna Balaram, Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, Radha Krishna. Then you have to divide one day Gonitai, one day Krishna Balaram, one day Radha Krishna, and so on. So you have to use intelligence. But you have taken the responsibility, just like if one is getting married. So if one is having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 children, then you have to take care of them. So similarly, you have so many deities, you took so many deities, then you have to take care of them. But then you have to maybe divide so that you are having enough time to chant and to study also, and then you have to do your occupation also. So you have to balance somehow. And the deity worship at home should be not a burden. So we should, therefore the deity worship at home should be simple. And we have to try to find a balance so that you are not burdened. So you can do other things also which are important. And also we have to see that we are not negligent. So we have to strike a balance. And for that you have to be introspective, you have to pray to the deities, and then they will guide you also. Or you have the spiritual master or senior devotees who may be able to guide you. That's it. Okay, we stop here and see you next week. Hare Krishna.